One of the most important retirement decisions that all of us will make is when to take our Social Security benefits. So whether you've already made that decision and you're taking Social Security or you're still contemplating that decision, you need to be aware of all the changes coming to Social Security for 2025. So in this video, I'm going to be exploring all the 5 major changes that are coming to Social Security for 2025 and then explain to you the impact that they will have upon you. So let's begin with the change that most of you are already aware of, and that would be the cost of living adjustment called the COLA. As most of you know, that was a 2.5% increase from 24 to 2025. Now, obviously, some would be disappointed in that, but the good news is that meant there was some lower inflation rates, and that's why we have just the 2.5%. So on average, just take a look at the impact upon the checks. And so the majority of people that are taking Social Security are taking retirement benefits. And so this, again, is just the average. There's people below, above, of course, but that's the average. So as you can see, that's going to bump up about $50 a month for the average retiree Social Security benefit. The next one will be widower benefit. And so, again, you can see that's not quite $50, but there's an adjustment there. Now, this would be someone that is taking Social Security disability, either because of a physical or an emotional disability. And, again, you can see that's going to bump up a little bit, almost about $40. And then I'll explain this last one. This is the actual maximum Social Security benefit that someone can take at their full retirement age. Now, this maximum benefit means this is someone that for 35 years has maxed out Social Security, meaning they were at that highest income level for the full 35 years. And now they're taking their Social Security at full retirement age. And so in 2024, it's a little over $3,800, and that jumped up almost $200 with that 2.5% increase. All right, so that, again, gives you some kind of an idea as to what the new check should be when those are direct deposited in January. Now, we get this question all the time. People that are not yet taking Social Security wonder, well, do I get any benefit from that cost of living adjustment? And the answer to that is yes, as long as you're at 62 or above. And so let me explain how that will impact you. Obviously, it didn't impact you because you're not getting a check, but here's what happens. Whenever someone is going to start taking Social Security, there's a formula that Social Security uses to determine what the amount of their check will be. And I just want to review that formula real quickly. So the first thing they do is they take the top 35 years of earnings, okay? And then they inflate those up with an index, and there's an index for inflation, and those are actually indexed up till age 60. So the money I made when I was 40, they were going to bring that money forward into real dollars, and they continue to apply that index up into the age of 60. And then after 60, we're not going to see any indexing up. It'll just be face value of those dollars that we earned. And so again, top 35 years, all that is indexed up. And what that does is that gives us what we refer to as our lifetime earnings. Lifetime earnings. And for most people, this is going to be, could be a couple million or above. They take the lifetime earnings and then they divide that by 420, which would be what? 420 months. Again, that's that 35 years. And so they take this number and they actually call it the AIME, A-I-M-E, which just simply stands for the average index monthly earnings. Okay, and let's just say, for instance, let's say that's $5,000. And what they do, whatever that number is, they're going to take that and they're going to apply that to what are called bin points. And bin points are just simply a percentage of the amount of money that we get. The bin points for this year are $1,226 of the first $1,226 that we make of this $5,000. We're actually going to get 90% of that value. And then they take the difference between the $1,226 and the second bin point is $7,391. And of that bin point, we actually get 32% of that difference. So 90% of the first 1226, and then any difference up to this point in time, we get 32%. Now, in my example here, where we said someone's 5,000, then they're going to get that difference there, which would be about $3,800 applied to that bin point, that percentage. And so all I'm trying to teach you is this is how they calculate our Social Security benefit. Now, if I'm above $73.91, in this example we weren't, but then whatever this money is here, we're going to get actually 15% of that. All right, and so this is how they calculate our Social Security check. And so they would take this, apply the bin points, and so what happens is whatever that results of that formula will be, that gives us what we call our primary insurance amount. And if someone has, let's say, a full retirement age of 67, this is what they're going to get based upon this formula here at 67. Now, we know we can take early, but every year that we take early, we lose about 6%. Or we can take after full retirement age, and we can grow it up to age 70 at an additional 8% a year. But this primary insurance amount is basically the basis that they use to determine what we're going to be eligible for, and then we have to decide when we're going to take either early or later or at our full retirement age. And so here's what I'm trying to teach you. That cost of living adjustment, 2.5% for someone that is not taken, then what they're going to do is they're going to apply that 2.5% to your primary insurance amount. So you do get the benefit of the COLA whether you're taking Social Security benefits or not, because again, at age 62, they recalculate this every year, coming up with a new primary insurance amount based upon that COLA adjustment on an annual basis. Hey, if you found this video helpful and you want to see more Medicare information just like it, then go below, right below the video, and you can give us the thumbs up as well as subscribe to our channel. And every time I put a new video, which is about 2 every week, you'll be notified of that video, and others just like you who need this vital information will get it as well. So that's change number 1, the cost of living adjustment. Now let's talk about change number 2, which is the maximum taxable earnings. Now, I'm going to pose this in the form of a question to make sure we're really all on the same page here, and that's this question. Maximum taxable earnings has to do with this question. How much of your, now watch this, earned income, wages, net self-employment income, earned income, W-2 income, 1099 income, all that, how much of that income is subject to the Social Security taxes? And so what we're saying is, if you're still working, how much of your income will be subject to the tax rate that's applied to Social Security, and I'm also going to show you Medicare as well. So that's the question we're talking about here, because you have to know this also changed for 2025. All right, so let me explain the graph here. So again, we're talking about Social Security taxes, and we're talking about Medicare for those that are still working. Okay, you're still employed. And so the tax rates did not change. But what we have for Social Security right now, you as the employee, for every dollar you're making up to a certain limit, you have to pay 6.20%. All right, for your Medicare, that actually is 1.45%. All right, now your employer has to match this. So they're putting in an additional 6.20 and 1.45%. Now, clearly, if you're self-employed, you know you're responsible for the full amount. So this would be what? 12.40, and then it would be 2.90 for those of you that are self-employed. Now, what I'm trying to teach you here is that the amount of earned income that we have that will be subject to Social Security taxes went up, and this year it's $176,100. All right, so again, you're going to pay these rates based upon that amount of income. And then once you get above the max, you don't have to pay anymore. So if someone's making $500,000, they're not going to pay Social Security taxes on the difference between the $176,100 and the $500,000. It's going to stop at that amount. All right, now when it comes to Medicare, a little bit different. What happens is Medicare doesn't have a max earnings. We'll continue to pay these amounts here, okay, which is basically unlimited. It never stops at all. But here's what happens above the max. So this means that they have established a max, and that would be this. For a single filer, the key number is $200,000. And any money that's going to be above that, you're going to have an additional tax. Anyone who is married that files a joint return, so this would again be someone married, they file a joint return, that number is $250,000. And this would be the adjusted gross income, line 11 on your tax return. So a single person above $200,000, you're going to pay an additional 0.90% upon every dollar that's going to be above that. Married couple filing a joint return, anything above $250,000, you're going to pay an additional 0.90%. So you can see, once we hit those limits, now what are we paying? Now we're paying a 3.80% once we get above the 200 or the 250,000, right? So those would let us know exactly how much taxes that we're going to be paying for Social Security Medicare on our earned income. All right, that brings us then to this third aspect of 2025 Social Security, and that would be the maximum taxes on your Social Security income. earlier we looked about those of us that are still working, what's the maximum taxes we have to pay towards Social Security. Now we're saying this is someone that's actually receiving Social Security benefits. How much of that benefit is then going to be taxable? No one is subject to 100% of their income from Social Security being taxable, but there's a different levels of taxes due. So let's talk about how this actually works. So the question we're answering now is how much of your Social Security income you're receiving benefits now will be subject to income taxes. Now, in order for me to explain this, for you to grasp this, what we're going to be looking at is what we call provisional income. Provisional income. And provisional income is actually a formula that then will decide how much of your Social Security will be subject to taxes. Now, the provisional income, what we do, we start with this. We take what is called your modified adjusted gross income. That's adjusted gross income, line 11, plus any tax-exempt interest. That's typically on line 2A. And so they take modified adjusted gross income plus 50% of whatever your annual Social Security benefit is. So modified adjusted gross income plus half your Social Security. So if you're making $24,000 a year, it would be $12,000 plus modified adjusted gross income. And my point is that number gives us then our provisional income. And that provisional income then is put to this particular chart here. And this would be for those that are single filers and those that are married that are filing a joint return. Okay, and so here's what happens. In this first column here, the number is $25,000 or below. If that is your provisional income, MAGI plus 50% of your Social Security, if it's below that, then zero of your Social Security benefits will be subject to taxes. You'll pay no taxes whatsoever. This next line is going to be $34,000. Again, provisional income, $34K. So if we're somewhere in between here, that would mean that 50% of our Social Security benefits will be subject to just ordinary income taxes, those rates. And then if we're going to be above the $34,000, anything above that, for a single filer, 85% of your benefits are going to be subject to income taxes. All right, now when it comes to married, numbers a little bit different. So our low number here for a married couple filing a joint return, $32,000 or below, they stay below that. Zero is subject to taxes. Top number is $44,000. So anything in between here, again, they'd pay 50%. And then a married couple that's above 44, 85% of their Social Security income would be then subject to ordinary income tax rates. Okay, so these are the numbers as we move forward for 2025. All right, that brings us then to the fourth major change. And that has to do with eligibility for Social Security benefits or for Medicare benefits. And so as you can see up here, the requirement for us to be able to draw Social Security retirement benefits or Medicare A and B benefits, we have to have 40 quarters paid into the tax system. All right, 40 quarters. And so this 40 quarters is equal to 10 years worth of work. Now, keep in mind, sometimes people don't have 10 years, 40 quarters in, then they may be able to draw from an existing spouse or from an ex-spouse, even a deceased spouse, with certain parameters. But the point is, we're always looking for 40 quarters to have this eligibility. And so let's talk about the quarter of coverage, because again, this changed for 2025. So quarter of coverage for 2025 is $1,810. Now, that $1,810 is earned income. This would be wages or net self-employment income. So as long as I have made that in that period of time, I'm going to get the quarter. But what happens is I don't have to work the whole year to be able to get my 4 quarters. All I have to do is make the limit times 4. So in this example right here, it would be what? $7,240 of earned income. Again, W-2 income, 1099 income, net self-employment income. And as long as I have made that, I picked up my 4 quarters for the year. Again, can't get any more than 4 quarters, but I don't have to work the whole year to do it. I don't have to make a tremendous amount of money to do it. I just have to be at that particular threshold there, $7,240 for this year, and we just picked up our 4 quarters. All right, that now brings us then to the 5th major change, and this one is a little bit more involved, and so I've kind of saved it to the last, but very, very important to note this. So this is called the Social Security Earnings Test. And so I'm going to pose a couple questions to you first. Number one is, who is subject to the earnings test. In other words, who even has to be concerned about this? Here's who. Anyone that has made the decision to take their Social Security benefits and they are still working. They're working still, okay, still employed. And they have not reached their full retirement age, exact month and year, okay? That's who is going to be subject to the earnings test. So if you're not taking Social Security yet, you're not subject to it. If you are taking, but you're full retirement age or beyond, again, you're not subject to it. So this is the group of people that have to know these details about the earnings test for 2025. Now, the second question is this: what income is being tested? So if I'm subject to it, what are they looking at? And again, same thing. This is going to be earned income. Earned income. This is my wages, it's my net self-employment income, my W-2, my 1099s, all that is going to be tested. So it's earned income. What is not tested, and I'm going to go through a list of this with you to make sure you understand, because other than that, nothing's tested. So investment earnings are not part of the equation whatsoever. Interest income, pension income, annuity income, capital gains, not subject to the earnings test, nor any kind of an IRA, 401k withdrawal or distribution, not subject to that either, okay, or unemployment benefits. So again, all these things are off limits. So again, it only applies to that income that we're actually earning through our work. Hey, if you come to a place where you know you're going to have to make some Medicare decisions pretty soon, the best way to do that is to click up here in this right-hand corner, and you'll have an opportunity to be able to book a call with one of our Medicare guides. All the guides around here I have personally trained, and they truly are professional. They'll answer your questions, and they'll show you different Medicare options to make sure that you're confident in the decision that you make. All right, so now let's look at some of the details about actually how this earnings test is actually calculated. How does it work? All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an example of someone that was born July the 4th of 1960. Okay, July the 4th, 1960. Now we know that anyone born in 1960 thereafter has a full retirement age of 67. So this person would hit their full retirement age and month, 7/1 of 2027. All right. And so once they reach that month, they're not going to be subject to any kind of earnings test whatsoever. Again, this would be when they turned 67. So it's always a month up. Now, keep in mind, if this person was born on July 1, we can move the calendar back and we could start everything in June. Okay. But if we're born on the second day thereafter, it's always our birth month that we're eligible to start our Social Security benefits. Okay. So that's one thing we need to know as I look at this particular formula. We're going to use this person as our example. Okay, so here we have this grid that will explain how the earnings test is going to work. And so the way that I teach it, and I've done a lot of teaching on this, is we have a low amount for earnings test, we have a high amount, and then we have no amount, meaning unlimited. We've reached our full retirement age. And so the low amount earnings limit, and again, these are numbers for this year, it's going to be $23,400 for the whole year. Okay, for the high amount, it's going to be $62,160, again, for the whole year. And then again, once we have reached our full retirement age, then it's unlimited. We can work and we can make as much money as we want, and there's no impact at all upon our Social Security check. So this is, again, at our full retirement age and month, which in that example would have been for this person, July 1, 2027. So these are the earnings test amounts if I'm going to take my Social Security benefits before I hit my full retirement age. So let's talk about the penalty. And what this means that if I'm still working and my earned income is above the 23.4, what happens for every $2 that I'm above the amount, they're actually going to take $1 out of my Social Security benefit. Now, let me clarify this. When we say they're going to take $1 out, what they do is they figure out the annual amount. Let's keep it real simple. Let's say that someone is above this by $12,000. Meaning their earnings are going to be, in this example, $35,400. They're above $12,000. So for every two, they take $1 out. And so that would be, what, a $6,000 penalty in this example, right? $6,000. And so what happens is they're going to actually withhold Social Security benefits until that money is set aside. So again, let's keep it simple. Let's say someone's receiving Social Security benefits of $2,000 a month. That means they're going to withhold 3 full checks before they actually turn on their Social Security benefits. So that penalty is actually front-loaded. Once it's set aside, then you start receiving Social Security benefits. This is why sometimes you'll have some people say, hey, I don't get my first Social Security check till May, or I don't get it until March, or whenever. It's because, again, they're above that earnings limit. So that's the low amount. And so let's talk about the high amount. Of course, we have much, much higher, almost 3 times the amount of money. And the penalty is less as well. So if I'm going to be above that amount, then what happens is for every $3 I'm above, they take $1 out of my Social Security check. So again, let's keep it simple. Let's say we're above that $12,000 again. And so they're going to only take for every 3 above. So this time, if I'm above $12,000, now they're going to withhold $4,000. During this higher amount time frame. And so that $4,000, again, if my check was $2,000 a month, they're going to withhold January and February. And again, they'll turn on my checks beginning in March. Okay, so that's the low and the high amount. And of course, right here with this penalty, there's no penalty at all. We can take make as much money as we want because we're at that full retirement age. So the thing that can be confusing about this, though, is the time frame that we are subject to the low amount and the time frame that we're subject to the high amount. So let me explain, again, using our example here of someone born July 4th, 1960, full retirement age of 67. So we know that this person with this birth date actually could have started taking Social Security at age 62, right? And so they actually would have turned 62 and been eligible to start their benefits in July of 2022. Okay, but at that time, they were subject to this low amount, and they're still going to be subject to the low amount until, watch this, until December before the year they hit full retirement age. So in this example, of 2026. So all during these years, well over 4.5 years, that's all they can make. Otherwise, they're going to be penalized, and that money is going to be set aside. All right, so that's the time frame there. Now let's talk about the time frame for the high amount. Well, clearly you can see my low amount ends then, so we know that January of the year I turn full retirement age, 2027, is when this high amount applies, and it applies all the way until the month right before I hit my full retirement age. So in this example, that's going to be June. So all the way up to June of 2027, I'm going to be subject to this particular amount, whatever that sets, and they, of course, change those on an annual basis. But then notice, once I've hit my full retirement age, 7/1 of 2027 onward, I don't have any kind of a limit whatsoever. Okay, my Social Security check is not going to be impacted because of an earnings test. All right, and so these are your new numbers for 2025.